Hi, I'm Brandon with Precision Defensive Solutions, and I'm sitting here with Chris Bean from Tactical Advantage. And Chris and I have been trying to get together and do this for quite some time.
Yeah, wow.
We just finished up the Active Self-Protection National Conference.
Mm-hmm.
Decided to shoot some videos, and but there's been a point of conversation that you and I have had for quite some time, and I think that boils down to how people practice,
Mm-hmm.
what they expect of themselves out of their practice,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that roadblock where they say, "I just can't do it," and then they start talking about natural talent and all that crap, and they see you shoot or they see me do something, and they're like, "Well, that's just natural talent." Well, that's a bunch of bull.
Yeah, I think I can actually talk about that. A few weeks ago, I posted a video shooting something that was relatively high level.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the comments on that video was like, well, now that's talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh no, that's not talent, that's hard work.
Yeah, it's really hard work. And I see, and I've done this through the martial arts too. People will say, well, you just got natural talent with that, and you're just good at it. That's a bunch of bull.
Yep.
They haven't seen the hours and hours and hours and hours of practice over the years
Right.
that has gone into that. And I think the shooting aspect is really no different.
Yeah, and I think about this a lot, right? What is the difference between someone at any skill level here and in any form, or up here? And I think it's got a lot to do with commitment. And really kind of the way I think about it, and away from shooting, right? We're framed in like a defensive kind of thing. But
Sure.
you wouldn't hand someone a guitar and expect them to play Jimi Hendrix in 24 hours of class instruction,
Sure.
right? That would just seem silly.
Right.
Or a pilot. You wouldn't put someone in a plane and say, all right, in this 2-day class, you're going to be good to go fly this plane and, do whatever, acrobatics with it.
Right.
And I think that's really the big hang up that people get, is they learn to compare themselves to people that are in a different place. It's not better or worse, just a different place. But they don't 100% necessarily understand that there's work to get there. And you're stair-stepping constantly, right?
Yeah, it's a journey. It really is. It's so like this weekend we were both assistant instructing in the draw to first shot class, trying to get a sub-second draw.
Yep.
Where did Neil pull us out? Something like 0.9. That's where you and I started.
Yeah.
And I think there were a lot of people that didn't understand that though you and I were doing that cold, the work that went to that point to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think you just made kind of a really interesting reference, and I think about this too, so I'm glad you said it, like cold. And if you're new to shooting, the cold idea is what you can do kind of the first time, right? But I kind of subscribe to a differing ideology there, where I think that there is no cold or warm.
Mm-hmm.
There's comfortable and uncomfortable.
I like that.
And I think comfortability comes from, you're like, oh, okay, I've just reminded myself that I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter where you are today. What matters is, where do you want to go? Have you established a goal? And have you figured out a way of how you're going to invest into that goal?
Correct.
So does that take a huge amount of time, a huge amount of effort? Well, maybe. It depends on what you're doing or what your end goal is.
Right.
But I think with shooting, you could get a lot of return on your investment with a little amount of time. But it's frequency of the investment that pays, not bulk kind of input.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely, it does. Absolutely, it does.
I think what's like your normal practice regimen? Like, let's say in a course of a week, what are you
Probably 3 times a week, about 10 to 15 minutes of dry fire practice. But I focus on specific things in each little session. So I don't sit there and just go, click, click, click. Okay, I'm, doing that. I'm studying why certain things are happening in that time to build what, the general public would call muscle memory, but, we know it's
I hate that term.
Yeah, right, because, no muscle has memory. Your brain has the memory. So, and it really is myelination. It's building those neural pathways to be able to do things that seem impossible to some, but it's really not that impossible. And I think that's where people get hung up is they get in this hook where they say, I can't do it. And
Absolutely.
I absolutely hate that word can't.
And it stops the investment process.
It does.
And I'm using that word carefully because it's an investment with a return.
Right.
What that return is, it may vary, especially varies at your skill level. Because, quickly we could talk about when you're relatively new, a small investment can have a big return.
Right.
As you develop more skill, it requires a bigger investment for a smaller return.
Right.
So like let's like a draw. If you have a 3-second draw and you're trying to get to a 1-5 draw, man, you can do that. And you can do that quickly with some quality instruction.
Yeah, that can happen real quick.
When you're trying to go from, let's say, a 1-second draw to a 0.8 draw, there's a lot of work involved in refinement. You're probably not going to get there in a day. That's going to be a more of a progression of development, right? So,
yeah, we're really talking about, in some cases, like hundreds of a second of improvement at a time.
And I think I've invested hours and hours and hours and hours trying to get hundreds.
Right.
But I guess that's a good way to frame it too, since we're talking about commitment. Just my personality, I guess is a better word, is I'm incredibly tenacious about things. If I focus on something, I almost am compelled to pursue it, right? So I have a high drive for commitment.
Right.
I will actually wake up at 5 a.m. to work, or it's 10 o'clock at night, I need to do work, and not miss, and almost to my detriment, because I have a tendency to overwork.
Yeah.
And that's a thing too.
Yeah, because you can cause physical injury.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, you can. Believe me, you can.
Yep.
But I think people need to gauge that a little bit, right? And then temper that with what goal they want to have. Because if you make a huge, lofty goal and you're not willing to commit to a process of getting there, it will be very, very difficult.
Right.
So I think planning is, I think we can talk about this with like your martial arts background. You don't go from white belt to black belt in 2 weeks.
Right.
Right? And I think listening to you kind of explain that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so a lot of people will ask me that they ask me that question a lot, actually.
When will I get a black belt?
Yep. How long will it take me, if I sign up today, how long will it take me to get a black belt? My answer is always, 100%. I don't know. Because there is no defined, time. And if anybody guarantees it, then there's a serious problem. So I am setting, as we said here and we filmed this, 6 weeks away from my 38th anniversary in the martial arts. 30.
Old.
Oh man. And I sit there and I go, that's unreal to me. It's just unreal to me to think about that.
I think Brandon might have a high commitment drive too.
Just a little bit. You wouldn't think we get along because of that, right? Or one of the things we get along. Yep. But it's that focus, it's that drive, it's that goal-driven mindset that will cause you to succeed at whatever you're doing.
And you will succeed. That's the thing. I think people, if they don't get an immediate result anymore, they quit. It happens over and over and over again. Imagine any parent out there and their kid went to band and got a violin, or how many violins, flutes, percussion pieces, football helmets, whatever, that just didn't stick. I mean, I know me as a parent, I've dealt with that.
Sure.
And I think we still carry that as adults. So I think you just have to, what do you really want to get out of it, and what are you willing to put into it to get that?
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And honestly, I think that's the baseline right there.
Yeah.
What are you willing to put into it? So that's the question that you got to ask yourself. What are you willing to put into it? What are you willing to do to get better, to better yourself? Not better, not keep up with, Johnny Bananas over here, but to keep up with where you're at and focus on your goals.
And I think that was kind of the cleanest way to kind of end the discussion, but I want to kind of say one last thing. You're in a one-horse race.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, and there's nothing anyone else is doing that you can't do. I don't care what your hurdles are. If you commit to it, you can become or achieve mastery.
Absolutely.
If you commit.
So keep that in mind and commit. Take care. Get after that training. Stay confident. And if you need either one of us, please reach out to us.